What is going on, brothers? Welcome to another episode of the Learning Manhood podcast. And today, we're not just talking about money. We are going to talk about something that we rarely ever talk about, but I'm finding keeping coming up in discussions I'm having with men: financial trauma. And that doesn't just that's the trauma that doesn't hit your wallet. Like this trauma hits your worth as a man. And if you're a man, especially a black man who grew up broke, struggling, or always hearing we can't afford this episode is for you, because poverty just doesn't leave you with less. It can leave you with scars. And today I really want to get into that financial trauma because, like I said, it keeps coming up in discussions I'm having with Ben in our and our coaching scenarios and things of that nature. Where what is this financial trauma? And I want to define that for you. So, financial trauma is an emotional and psychological impact of chronic financial stress, scarcity, or instability, especially during your formative years. So, this isn't about, oh, one time crisis, right? There are families out there that had a one-time crisis where their parent lost a job, and for a season, a couple of months, things were a little bit rocky, and then their parent got another high-paying job, and they were back to their normal state, right? um, this is a repeated cycle of constantly not having enough, right? It's about consistently being growing up in what we call survival mode, right? Where we don't know how we gonna make these two ends meet, where we are trying to figure out how to consistently be in a place of uh, I am just trying to get to a place of just barely getting over the line, right? It's like that's the lifestyle you grow up with when there was, the money was there was never enough money, right? Food was rationed out, bills were, paid sparingly, just enough to make things happen. Like lights got cut off, and but your parents, were trying to make things happen, had to wait till the 15th. Like, and your parents' stress became part of, your normal everyday life. And that's when this trauma begins to wire your brain to think that lack is within your identity. And without healing that, you either chase money like it's salvation, or you sabotage yourself with money when it finally comes. So I want to talk more now that we've defined it. I want to talk about the symptoms that I'm seeing of financial trauma showing up in men. Uh, we took a quick poll amongst the men in the group this week, really asking ourselves, like, okay, what are some aspects of financial trauma that we see in ourselves? What are some aspects of these symptoms that we see in ourselves? Um, and here, like what we talked about is like first and foremost, like these show up in your life. Where do you notice them a lot? And a lot of men were noticing when someone else said this. It's like, oh man, dang, that is something that I struggle with. Like first thing, the scarcity mindset. It's even when you have money, you act like you don't. You hoard it, or you fear spending. You can't rest. Even when the bills are paid. That is something that I struggle with. Like that's something that my wife has to constantly remind me. It's just like, sweetheart, like it's okay. We can go and do this thing. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like I'm trying to be. I look at some of the stuff in my life, and I realize that I am the dragon in the cave hoarding all the coins. Because I don't want. It's like, you don't know what happened. A rainy day could happen, and we could lose it all today, and we could be broke. And I can't do that. And so that scarcity mindset is part of that financial trauma. The second thing is shame around finances. Like you don't ask for help. You won't budget. You don't budget. You avoid like your bank app like it's the plague, because somewhere in you that money still equals pain and failure. It's that feeling you get when like you go to swipe your car and you're just like, oh no, this is gonna work. Like because you don't know how much money you have left, because you're too scared to look, because you don't want to see that number being the place where you don't want it. Um, and I see that a lot, and like that's one of the biggest ones that came up in the group this week, is about that shame over our finances. And because we have that shame, we avoid looking at it, and because we avoid looking at it, we never get the chance to really get control of it. The third one is overcompensation through appearance. And in the Black community, this is a huge one. We love to fake it until we make it, right? And we grow up broke. You perform, you know, wealth, right? Like you try to look like you got money. You know, you get a little bit of money, now all of a sudden, like, I gotta have nothing but fresh J's on. I gotta have all the jewelry on. I gotta have the car. I always gotta, it's gotta be like, oh, it's on me, it's on me, it's on me. But then behind the scenes, like we ain't got no savings, we ain't got no nothing because at this like we've always felt less than, and so we overcompensate through appearance. This is a story that like we hear all the time. It's just like, oh, I made it out of the hood, and so now I'm taking everybody with me, and because these people are essentially just leeching off of me. Um, and I'm not saying no to anyone. I'm back in the same position that we were all in to begin with. So we all had a good little run, but now it's over, right? And and we've always felt it's really indicative of always feeling less than by not having get you in this place of consistently feeling less than to the point where now overcompensating through our appearance helps us feel seen. You know what I'm saying? It helps us feel validated as a man. Um, and so we spend to feel seen. Like that we have this whole phenomenon around this idea of tricking, right? Um, where you, if you're unfamiliar with the term, tricking is when you have money and you're spending it on women to get attention from these women, right? And it creates this feedback loop of, oh, if I spend this money on women, then they'll pay more attention to me, which means that will increase my perceived worth to people around me because all these women are paying attention to me, even though these women could necessarily not really care about me, but just care about what it is that I do for them. And which does this whole circle because now we have songs like Gold Digger, right? Like, where do you think that comes from? People doing what is called tricking, spending money on women specifically to get their attention. Now, that's not the same as, dating someone and trying to go out on a date with them and have a good time and spend time with someone that you mutually enjoy. That's not the same thing. Um, but this begins to create this feedback loop in our community about money. And so now, right, like we have an epidemic of women who um, want specifically like this whole conversation about, oh, my man's got to make six figures, this, that, and the third, like that. Like that is putting a dollar amount on a man's worth, which really is a symptom of financial trauma. What she wants is security. What she needs is someone that she can have emotional, physical, and financial security with, not just financial security. But that's a whole nother other conversation. The last one I wanted to talk about was workaholism or burnout. Right, this is something that I also struggle with. Just me, like my wife recently pointed out. She was like, I'm coming up on 20 years of being in the military. I'm about to retire, and she was like, the entire time that I've known you, the entire time that we've been together, you have always had at least two jobs. You would go to work every day and then you would come home and do another hustle of some kind. You were always trying to either start a business, build a business, grow a thing, like trying. Always doing something. I get hyper focused on my passions. I grind nonstop. But while I say I'm focusing on my passions, deep down, once I started peeling back some of these layers, it's panic. Panic. That financial trauma in me makes rest feel unsafe. Because if I got time to rest, I got time to be getting after this money, right? And it really developed a very unhealthy relationship with my time, my family, and money. Like I feel guilty when I'm not producing things that make money, which made it very difficult for me to be like, oh, I'm getting into trauma care and ministry when it's just like, like I want to help people, but we got to eat, but I don't want to beat people over the head. Like this, it's that financial trauma that makes it difficult for me to be an effective business owner, right? But it's not about just providing. It's about providing what you're so you're not that broke kid anymore, right? I'm still trying to take care of that little kid that was sleeping on the floor with his brother and his mom, in a one bedroom, like where I'm still trying to financially provide for that kid, and so that's something that I've had to learn um, to grow through. And so, earlier, you want to talk about kind of. We're gonna get into what the Bible says about healing financial trauma. But we've touched a lot about how this impacts the Black community like so heavily, and we have to be real. Like for the vast majority of us, especially us as millennials, we are the first generation to get it together, quote unquote. Um, I am fortunate enough that my mother was able to elevate us out of poverty. In our as she continued to go to school and get training and move up in her work and things like that, we were able to move into the suburbs for my high school years and things of that nature. Like so, I got we got to move out up and out. It was great. But some of us, we weren't just poor. We inherited systemic oppression. We redlining, job discrimination. Schools that never taught us how money worked, and on top of that, like we were especially in the church, like we're told, like just pray and work hard, but no one told us about like healing and how trauma warps how we see God, how we see ourselves, and how we see success. And so what happens, we continually raise sons that fear money, we raise daughters who feel unsafe, and the cycle continues to repeat until someone breaks it, which is why we're having this conversation right here. So the Bible, what does the Bible say about healing financial trauma? Here's where like I see hope coming in, and we see the pain if the because God sees the pain the poverty creates, and He speaks directly to it. Like in Proverbs 10:22, He said, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and He adds no sorrow with it." If sorrow and stress are ruling your finances, that's not His way. That financial stress and that financial trauma is not His way. Romans 12:2 says, you know. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? And that includes the mindset around money. And then Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to produce wealth." It's not We're not meant to flex. We're not meant to boast. We are meant to build a legacy. Um, Around our ability to grow our finances. And sometimes, especially in the church, it feels skeevy to be wealthy. But that's also because we've seen so many people misuse wealth, right? Um, One of the biggest fears I had coming into, I am doing coaching and I am doing a coaching that is surrounding a kind of a ministry, was I didn't want to be that pastor, that southern stereotypical pastor that was up there just fleecing the flock, right? Um, Stealing money from the church. I didn't want to be seen as someone that was trying to sell the word and things like that. Like, and so that made me struggle through trying to accept this calling. Um, and accept the fact that I can generate income, right? Like, so these verses really started to help me, and this mindset shift really started to help me understand how to break free from that financial trauma. And then it's something that I'm still working through, but I think the biggest impact here was me understanding that it existed and understanding that it's something I needed to work on. It's something that, like, as the guys were talking this week, it was just so powerful. We were just realizing where we all were. Most of us are entrepreneurs. And so it was just like, wow, we are all struggling with a little bit of this financial trauma. So I'm going to give you the the three things um, about how you can start healing this. If this is hitting home for you, if this is like, man, this sounds like me, I'm gonna give you. Here we go. So first thing you want to do is I want you to name it, right? I want you to actively say like, I have financial trauma, because like I always say, you can't heal what you won't face. You can't give to God what you won't name, right? And the second thing I want you to do is to renew your beliefs. I want you to write out the lies that you believe about money, and then I want you to go to scripture with each one of those lies, and then replace each one with a truth. Um, Example, like one of the guys in the group talked about how his lie was, "I'll always struggle." Like that is the nature of life, that I will always struggle. But the truth is, we went and found in Philippians 4:19, "My God shall supply all my needs." And we talk about I wish I knew the address off the top of my head. But the Lord talks about how, you know, the birds get fed, and how much more does the Lord care about you than He cares about the birds, right? And then the third thing I want you to do is get support, right? Like we talked about the coaching program, we've been working together and kind of identifying these things within ourselves. Um, I walk men through this mindset transformation, emotional recovery and money management from a kingdom perspective. But it's not just about making more; it's about becoming whole, and it's not about working just with me. I need one thing. I don't want anyone to ever assume that I've got the market cornered on this thing, right? No, everything that I am doing is things that you can do with your brothers. You just have to make sure that you're setting a stage for having a mindset challenging conversation in such a way that can be done in a healthy and productive way. You got to be able to trust your brothers. And so luckily, everyone that's in the coaching program, we've had an opportunity to vet and talk to. Um, so that way we can trust each other and we can build with one another. And it's just been a beautiful experience. But I need you, as you are working through this, get support. Find yourself your pastor, your men's group at church. Like, just go talk to your boys and sit down and say, let's talk about it. Like, let's have a beer and have a conversation, right? Like, these are things that you can do to start your healing. Um, so in closing, I just want to give you like a last few thoughts that money trauma isn't about just the past, right? It's about reshaping your future right now. So, brother, I just want you to hear me. You are not your poverty. You're not your bank account. You are not your past, and you're not stuck. God's plan for you includes freedom, provision, and purpose. So let's stop just trying to survive and let's start trying to heal, not just for us, really, but for our families, our sons, our legacies. You know, this is learning manhood. And here we're just going to rebuild together. So I appreciate you. God bless. Until next time, man, be safe out there.